TV18.
Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. The stock markets climbed to a 5-month high. Traders take heart from an overnight rally on Wall Street despite the lack of a deal on the US debt ceiling. The Sensex and the Nifty gain 1% each to end the week with nearly 2% gains. The FMCG index crosses the 50,000 mark, hitting a record high, having gained nearly 14% so far this year. Varun Beverages overtakes Britannia and market cap, becomes India's 4th largest FMCG player after ITC, HUL and Nestle. Zee gets some relief at the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. The NCLT order directing the stock exchanges to review the NOC granted to the proposed Zee Sony merger is set aside for violating principles of natural justice. The Appellate Tribunal instructs the NCLT to hear Zee's defense before deciding on the matter. Grounded airline Go First extends flight cancellations to the 28th of May, citing operational challenges. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 a quick revival looks challenging as engine provider Pratt & Whitney has told a Delaware court it has no engines for the airline. The Jalan Kalrock Consortium gets 3 more months to pay Jet's lenders and take over the defunct airline. The NCLAT restrains lenders from invoking bank guarantees provided by the consortium in the interim. Strong volume growth across segments drives a 31% jump in automaker M&M's Q4 revenues. Net profit growth misses the mark as higher expenses weigh on margins. India on track for a normal monsoon this year, says the Met Department. The emergence of El Nino conditions will not have an impact. Rainfall pegged for the June-September period at 96% of the long-term average. The Met expects monsoons to hit Kerala on the 4th of June. A year after his arrest by the Enforcement Directorate, former Delhi Minister and Aam Aadmi Party leader Satyendar Jain granted 6 weeks interim bail on medical grounds. The Supreme Court orders him to submit medical reports by the 10th of July and not leave the Delhi NCR region in the interim. Manipur government relaxes curfews in parts of the state for 7 hours. New rules allow people to step out of their residences but only to buy essential items. Home Minister Amit Shah to visit the state to try and resolve the ongoing ethnic crisis. Maharashtra's farmers wait for their compensation even 3 months after unseasonal rains damaged the Rabi crop. Maharashtra government blames unseasonal rains for the delay, promises payment soon. A special report from Nasik. Well, let's start by giving you a snapshot of the day's trading action. Stock markets have hit a 5-month high. The Sensex gained over 1% over the day and the Nifty closed just shy of 18,500. Mid-cap stocks also participating. This is the second consecutive day of gains for the indices and it's helped the markets end in the green for the week as well. Banks continue to underperform though. We did see some strong weekly gains coming in for the IT and pharma sectors. Prashant standing by to wrap up the market action. Prashant, going in strong ahead of the weekend.
A cracker of a session today with the Nifty almost ending at 18,500. Well, yesterday we saw a test of an important support of the 20-day moving average twice in about 5 trading sessions. And today we saw a repeat of what we saw exactly a week ago, which is a clean run after a test of an important support level, which was defended. And I think that is important. The banks participated as well. They've been a little bit of a laggard. The index was up about 0.75%. On the Nifty, gains coming through in Reliance, which participated quite a bit, adding about 50 index points to that Nifty move. Hindalco, Sun Pharma, HUL and Divi's Laboratories were some of the others which did quite well. Party was in the broader markets, right? So mid-cap and small-cap indices doing quite well, 0.5% roughly. The mid-cap index, by the way, for the week, Friday to Friday, is up 2.6%. Small-cap index is up as well, but not anywhere near as much as what the mid-cap index has done. And so let me tell you what happened in the broader market on the upside. So Zee did very well. There was, of course, news out of the courts. Naukri, which reported numbers surged in the last 60 minutes of trade. MedPlus reacting to numbers. It's back above the IPO price. From the FMCG space, things like Varun Beverages, Vector Foods, small IT companies like Sonata, eClerks, Nuclear Software doing well. Beaten down names like HDFC, AMC, Piramal Pharma sort of doing very, very well. Cummins, Praj Industries, Hindware, which for the second day running has been rallying, Indus Tower, VRL Logistics. I could go on with the amount of momentum that there was with volumes. on the way up. Now, the question really is what happens from here. 18,500 is a level around which the market has dithered, has hesitated in the past. There are two things from the global arena which we need to watch. One is an agreement or at least progress on the US debt deal. Will we hear more by the time we come back on Monday? And of course, today we get also inflation prints, core PCE numbers, which I think will firm up expectations for what the Fed will do when it meets in June. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Well, speaking of a party, the FMCG index has been the standout sectoral performer of the year so far. The index has hit a record high, surging 14% so far this year. It's also outperformed the benchmark Nifty in the bargain. Mangalam is standing by on what's making the sector tick. Mangalam.
It's been a big mover. If you just take a look at it in this year itself, we haven't even completed 2023. The FMCG index has rallied by about 14%. This compares with the Nifty at around 2% itself. In the last 12 months too, we've seen the FMCG index rally about 32%. This compares with the Nifty at 13%. In fact, in the last 15 years, there have been only two occasions where the FMCG index has given negative returns. So it was once in FY19 and the other one was FY9. Of course, FY9 had the Lehman crisis itself. Key constituents of the FMCG index, the top two batsmen are always ITC and HUL, depending on who's outperforming at what point in time. So HUL currently is at the second spot with 22% weight, ITC 33% weight, Nestle 7.8%, Britannia 6.5%. But Varun Beverages has been the standout performer from the lower order batsmen as well, doing extremely well. From the 52-week low, while the FMCG index is up 40%, ITC is the key contributor, 72% rally from its 52-week low, whereas HUL by its sheer weight, despite a 26% rally, has been among the big contributors, and Varun Beverages has come out and played the knockout game at towards the dying hours of the innings, so 145% jump from its 52-week low on Varun Beverages itself. From a point-to-point contribution from its 52-week low, the FMCG index has rallied about 13,650 points, more than 50% of the gains coming in from ITC, 7,450 points, HUL 2,100 points, and we have Varun Beverages giving it 1,200 points as well. So far, the results have been not bad. In fact, the management commentary has been good as well. They're talking about gradual recovery in rural demand. They're talking about margin expansion as well as raw material inflation tempers. And at the same time, they're talking about drastic changes in the way the companies are looking at distribution, production, and digital. So these are growth areas for the company. While the FMCG index has been a wealth creator in a lot of people's portfolios, remember, wealth creators don't come for cheap. But currently, by virtue of the growth prospects that we see, we have the FMCG index at a not very big premium to their 10-year average, barring ITC, which is trading at a mild premium to their 10-year average. All the other stocks are very close to the 10-year average multiples itself.
All right, Mangalam, many thanks for joining us. That is the FMCG index at a new record high. In corporate news, Zee Entertainment has managed to get some relief from the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. The appellate court has set aside the NCLT's order, which directs the stock exchanges to review the no objection certificate that was granted to the proposed Zee Sony merger. Ashmit joins us now with more details. Ashmit, take us through the order. On what grounds has the NCLT order been set aside, and what happens next?
Well, major relief coming in for the Sony-Zee merger. The NCLT order, which had directed the exchanges BSE and NSE to review their NOCs granted to this merger, that NCLT order now stands set aside. Now, here's the context to it all. April 25th is when SEBI came out with an order with negative findings on mismanagement of funds by a sister concern of Zee. Now, that is the order that was cited before the NCLT, and subsequently the NCLT proceeded to direct the exchanges to review their NOCs in light of these latest findings coming in from the market regulator. It was challenged before the appellate tribunal. Here, Zee essentially argued that they have secured all the necessary approvals, SEBI, CCI, Income Tax Department, there is no opposition, and importantly, they pointed out that they were not heard by the NCLT before asking the exchanges to review the order. Now, that is something that the appellate tribunal has taken objection to. The appellate tribunal held that this was a bare minimum that should have been done. Zee should have been allowed an opportunity to respond to these concerns, and that this is a violation of principles of natural justice. So on that count, the NCLT order now stands squashed, now stands set aside. But the issue does travel back to the NCLT. The difference now is that Zee will have to be given a hearing, Zee will have to be heard, and importantly, the NCLAT, at least as of right now, has not prescribed any timeline. So that question mark still remains. The issue, however, travels back to the NCLT.
All right, Ashwit, many thanks for joining us. Now, Zee Entertainment is not the only party to get some relief at the NCLAT. The Jalan Kolrak Consortium, whose revival plan for the beleaguered Jet Airways was accepted by the airline's insolvency resolution professional, has also received some relief. The NCLAT has given the consortium 3 more months to pay lenders of the airline as per the approved resolution plan. Remember, the original deadline for payment was the 15th of May. The latest NCLAT order also restrains the airline's lenders from invoking bank guarantees that were provided by the consortium. And speaking of grounded airlines whose revival plans face challenges, Go First has extended the suspension of its flight operations to the 28th of May. This comes a day after the aviation regulator, the DGCA, directed the airline to submit a comprehensive resolution plan. But CNBC-TV18 learns that the airline's revival looks difficult since there is still no clarity on the engine supply from the engine supplier Pratt & Whitney. Madhya is standing by with more details. Madhya, what's the latest development that could potentially delay Go First's revival?
Well, there are 2 big challenges facing the airline here. First is the non-availability of engines, and second is getting aircraft lessors to renew their leases. Supply of engines is extremely crucial to getting Go First back in the skies. More than 50% of the airline's fleet was already grounded when it had filed for bankruptcy. Pratt & Whitney is now reportedly refusing to provide engines to the airline, and this puts the relaunch plan into jeopardy. The Reuters report says that Pratt & Whitney, during the hearing in the Delaware court, said that there are no engines available to be sent to Go First. It said that Go First has no right on the engines as the leases have been terminated. Remember, Go First had moved the Delaware court seeking to enforce the arbitration award that it won in the Singapore Arbitration Center. The award had directed Pratt & Whitney to supply engines to Go First. While the court is yet to pass any ruling in the matter, airline executives and aviation experts tell me that Go First will also need to show availability of aircraft to get this award enforced, as engines without aircraft won't serve any purpose. Remember, NCLAT had asked lessors to approach NCLT for termination of leases, and the lessors are likely to do so unless they get pending dues and assurance from the airline on future payments. So all this boils down to the airline having adequate capital if it wants to relaunch operations. Experts I spoke to say the airline will need at least 150 crores a month, even if starts operations with 5 to 7 aircraft. Now, whether it will manage to secure the required funding is something we will watch out for.
Madhya, many thanks for joining us. Let's talk about earnings now. Drug maker Sun Pharma reporting a good set of Q4 numbers. The company has swung back into the black, reporting a net profit of nearly 2,000 crore rupees against a net loss reported a year ago. Its performance, which is in line with expectations, has been driven by a 15% rise in revenue and an 80 basis point expansion in margin. Growth has been driven by its specialty drug business, which has seen sales jump 28%. Its American business has also done well, with sales growing over 10%. And staying with earnings, Mahindra & Mahindra's Q4 revenues ahead of street estimates on the back of healthy volume growth, but the company has fallen shy of expectations on the net profit front. Sonia standing by to break down the numbers for us. Sonia, what stands out for you in M&M's numbers?
Well, thanks a lot for that. So, the numbers were strong, but they were slightly lower than what the street was estimating on a few parameters. But give and take everything, this was not a bad showing at all, and hence the stock is in the green. So if you look at it, the profit growth was 22.1% for M&M. The revenue growth was in excess of 31%. The EBITDA has grown 44.5%, while the margins have picked up from 11.2% last year to about 12.4%. But this is slightly lower than what the street was estimating. On the profitability front, the estimate was about 1,750 crores. It came in at 1,550 crores, which is about 12% lower than what the street was estimating, and hence a little bit of a disappointment. But if you break it up into different segments, and you see both the auto and the tractor segment, there was an improvement in margins for both segments. So for the tractor segment, the revenues have improved to 5,580 crores versus 4,327 crores. And that implies margins of 16.6% in the tractor segment compared to 15.6% same time last year. Even in the auto segment, margins have improved to 6.6% versus 4.8%. which means that there are a couple of reasons why this has happened. One, of course, raw material prices have cooled off. Second is supply side issues have eased and operating leverage has kicked in, and hence the operational performance overall has improved. The stock is holding up in the green despite the numbers being slightly lower than estimated because of a slew of new launches, especially on the SUV front, which could aid the operational performance further.
Sonia, many thanks for joining us. Vodafone Idea's losses narrowed to 6,400 crore rupees in Q4. The company's revenue growth, though, remains flat. Margins have improved. However, the company's subscriber count has dipped to less than 3 million sequentially and less than 18 million on a yearly basis. Indian banks have asked the government to restore the merchant discounts on RuPay cards. The merchant discount rate is charged to a merchant for the payment processing of debit and credit card transactions. At present, there is zero MDR for transactions through the RuPay debit card. Sapna joins us now with more. Sapna, this has been a long-standing demand. Is there any fresh development on this front?
Well, not really in terms of what the government has in mind. The fact that they have been silent over this matter since last couple of years probably gives us an indication of what may unfold or what may actually not unfold. But this is almost a kind of a fresh pitch being made by all the banks put together, and the reasons are extremely clear. Around 1,200 odd banks, including regional rural banks and corporate banks, have been in the RuPay ecosystem, RuPay card ecosystem, and there are challenges as versus the kind of features that a Visa or MasterCard can offer you. Also in terms of your loyalty programs and your rewards being offered on the other international cards. So it's a big challenge for the Indian banks to actually push this forward. Like for instance, we go to a Punjab National Bank or a Canara Bank, a RuPay card, it's just plain vanilla. There's nothing very much that you can do on this compared to a MasterCard or a Visa card. So this is something that the banks are really eager that the government should have an open mind and listen to them. For a particular reason, the MDR had been dropped, and it was a very conscious call taken by North Block. Let's wait and watch and see if something happens on this front. But till then, this lag between a RuPay card and your international Visa and debit MasterCards, that's going to remain, and that's a concern. Plus, banks also don't have that much of additional money to put in terms of developing that ecosystem further or offering further rewards to the customers. So at least from that point of view, that is something the government can consider.
All right, Sapna, many thanks for joining us. The securities regulator, SEBI, is in the process of formulating new mutual fund regulations for passive funds. Speaking to CNBC-TV18 on the sidelines of the Assocham Mutual Fund Summit, SEBI whole-time member Anant Barua said that a working group has been formed and a consultation paper will be put out in a few months. Shivani Bajaj is standing by with the key highlights from that conversation. Shivani.
Well, days after SEBI released a 40-page consultation paper for mutual funds, Anant Barua, whole-time member of SEBI, has said that market regulator is in process of bringing in new set of regulations for passive funds specifically. A working group for the same has already been formulated, and a consultation paper on the same can be expected in the next few months. Important to note that currently all the rules and regulations for mutual funds were initially formulated for active funds. But since there has been a dramatic rise in the assets under management of passive funds in the last few years, the regulator is considering making new rules specifically for passive mutual funds. Anant Barua told CNBC-TV18 that passive funds don't need to go through many of the regulations that were initially made for active funds, and hence a new set of rules is required.
Shivani, many thanks. Time for us to head into a break. But up next, Maharashtra farmers wait for their compensation even 3 months after unseasonal rains damaged the Rabi crop. A special report from Nasik when we report.
This car's electric for more reasons than just being woke.
Oh yeah.
And man, the money it saves you is no joke.
It's got enough range to get you anywhere!
And it's the goat to park when you get there.
The all-new MG Comet EV, the no-nonsense car.
Because just like us, this car cuts the crap, man.
The recent breakthrough in AI has put India at the cusp of revolutionizing the lending process for underserved MSMEs. To leverage this opportunity, experts of YouGrow, India's leading MSME lender, have curated informative content on the potential that banks and emerging tech lenders have unleashed by leveraging AI and ML to create lending processes that are ESG compliant and seamless borrowing experiences for MSMEs. YouGrow Capital, empowering the MSME ecosystem.
You know, people often ask me why I left my steady job at the call center. I wanted more out of life. So, I launched my own startup. Do you want to know how? Then start up your own business as an LIC agent. You want it, we've got it. Great products, zero investment, leading organization, and unlimited opportunities. So, are you ready? Now think big. Become an LIC agent.
Visit our website or contact your nearest LIC branch.
Samsung Solve for Tomorrow is a national education and innovation competition. This is your chance to make an impact for India. Don't miss the opportunity to win prizes. So join the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow today. The big national story is the Manipur government has relaxed curfew in parts of the state for 7 hours. As per the directive, people can step out of their residences, but only to buy essential items. Home Minister Amit Shah is scheduled to visit the state next week to try and resolve the ongoing ethnic crisis. Former Delhi Minister and AAP leader Satyendar Jain has been granted interim bail of 6 weeks on medical grounds. Jain has been in Tihar jail after the ED arrested him in an alleged money laundering case last May. He was hospitalized earlier this week after collapsing in the jail bathroom. The Supreme Court has refused to entertain a public interest litigation which sought a direction that the new parliament building be inaugurated by President Draupadi Murmu. Prime Minister Modi will be inaugurating the new parliament on Sunday. 21 opposition parties, including the Congress and the TMC, plan to boycott the launch. The National Tiger Conservation Authority constitutes an 11-member steering committee to review and advise on Project Cheetah. This comes after 6 cheetahs, including 3 cubs, died within a span of 2.5 months in the Kuno National Park. Rajesh Gopal, the Secretary General of the Global Tiger Forum, will serve as its chairman. Maharashtra's farmers began staring at huge losses about 3 months ago when unseasonal rainfall damaged the rabi crop. The state government promised compensation to every farmer, but this exercise is stuck at the survey stage. Santegura reports that farmers say they have little to fall back on to pay existing dues or get ready for the next season.
Namdev Katkade depends on the 7-acre farm in Nandgaon in Maharashtra's Nashik district to support his family. But in the last 3 months, he has watched his hopes of repaying his 5 lakh rupee debt and paying for his 18-year-old daughter's education wash away in the rains.
I had sown maize in 2-acre land, onion in 2-acre land, and wheat and pearl millet in the rest of the land. The unseasonal rains damaged my maize and onion crops.
Like thousands of farmers in the region, Namdev has pinned his hopes on the state government to make good on its promise of compensation, but the wait continues. The state government's early estimates say that between March and April, crops spread over 70,000 hectares in Maharashtra have been damaged by unseasonal rains. Worst affected are the regions of Nashik, Dhule, Nandurbar, Jalgaon, Ahmednagar, Buldhana, Washim, and pockets along the Konkan belt. The state government announced in late April that it was releasing around 170 crore rupees in relief funds to farmers, but farmers say they are yet to see any of this money.
The government has not conducted any surveys. The state government is only making announcements, but farmers haven't received any compensation.
Farmers in Maharashtra are not alone. Unseasonal rains have damaged crops across Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. And in all these states, farmers say the state promised compensation has been delayed. Experts estimate the overall revenue loss for farmers at over 13,000 crore rupees and say delaying compensation will mean the next sowing and harvest cycle could be affected. The Maharashtra government claims that the surveys to get damage estimates were delayed as the rains and hail continued to damage more crops. It says that with unseasonal rain slowing down, the exercise is close to completion and farmers should get their compensation soon. But for farmers, the clock is ticking. The next sowing season is just 2 to 3 weeks away, and with many farmers not having much of a financial safety net to fall back on, the rest of the season is not looking too good. With inputs from Babu Sheikh in Nashik, in Mumbai, Santya for CNBC-TV18.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. Our Friday favorite, Editors Roundtable, comes up next.